All right. Hello, happy Friday, and welcome to another edition of the City of Citrus Heights remote Facebook Live series. I'm Nicole Baxter, Communications Officer for the City of Citrus Heights, and today we'll be talking about the incoming speed limit changes in our city, and I'll be interviewing Leslie Blomquist, City Engineer, as well as Officer Lombardo. Leslie and Officer Lombardo, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hi, yes, I'm Leslie Bloomquist, City Engineer with the General Services Department.
And hi, I'm Officer Lombardo with the Citrus Heights Police Department Traffic Unit.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us today. So during this live interview, we'll be taking questions. My colleague Haley Reed is monitoring the comments section. So as we're discussing, if you have questions, please comment them below and we'll take them at the end of the interview. As a little bit of background, I did want to kick us off by sharing that these speed limit changes were adopted by our City Council on October 22nd. And they are required of us to keep up with the law and the California Vehicle Code, but I'll let these experts dive into that in a little bit. You can find a roundup of information about these speed limit changes on the city's website by going to citrusheights.net/speed limits, and we'll drop that link in the comments section so you can head over and check it out. If you're unable to stick around for the entire interview, don't worry. We'll be recording this and sharing that on Facebook as well as YouTube after the fact. So to dive in, Leslie, I was hoping you could take us through the reasons behind why these speed limit changes are coming to our city.
Of course. So we are, as you mentioned, required to post our speed limits in accordance with the vehicle code. This law states that speed limits should be established at or near the 85th percentile speed, which is the speed at which 85% of all drivers are traveling at or below. If we don't do this, then we're not in compliance with the requirement. It is considered a speed trap, and enforcement using certain methods, radar and LiDAR specifically, cannot be done, and those citations can't be upheld in court. So we're really doing this so that we can utilize enforcement in our toolbox for traffic safety. If we set the speed limits at the 85th percentile speed, that additional traffic enforcement is able to be utilized, which is a counterintuitive thought that we increase our speed limits to increase traffic safety. But by raising this speed limit, that's really what we're trying to do, is increase the safety on our roadways.
That's great. And I know that, enforcement is a big part of our safety plan for the city. Officer Lombardo, could you walk us through first what speed limits are going to be changing, and then also how you guys will be enforcing and what that will look like for our residents?
Yes, so there's 5 separate areas that the speed limit was increased or decreased. So from Antelope Road, on Antelope Road from I-80 to Auburn Boulevard, the current speed limit is 40 and the speed limit will be changing to 45. On Antelope Road from Auburn Boulevard to Sunrise, again, it was 40 and it's moving to 45. On Fountain Square from Greenback to Stock Ranch, it was 30 and it's actually going to decrease down to 25. On Old Auburn Road from Fair Oaks to the city limits on the northeastern side, it was 35 miles per hour, and that will be 40 miles per hour. And then lastly, on Sunrise Boulevard from Antelope to the northern city limits up to Roseville, the existing speed limit was 40, and now it's going to be moved to 45 miles per hour.
All right, thank you for sharing that. So we've got the 5 main changes happening with this round of updates. If you're just joining us, we're live here on the City of Citrus Heights page talking with Officer Lombardo and City Engineer Leslie Bloomquist. We are taking questions live and discussing the recent and incoming speed limit changes in our city. So this is our website that we've got all the information up on. Again, we've got the 5 main areas that are changing. Officer Lombardo, could you share how we'll be, how we'll be updating these speeds, like when people can anticipate seeing new signage and what enforcement will look like?
Yes, so new signs will be installed next Monday. That's December 14th. And then enforcement will start on Tuesday, December 15th. On Tuesday, December 15th, we'll have a full complement of traffic officers out there from the city of Citrus Heights. They will be highly visible and they will be out enforcing those posted speed limits. Officers typically in this area will be utilizing LiDAR because it is so accurate. It is the preferred method for law enforcement. We like to use it because it pinpoints vehicles, whether they're solo or whether they're in a pack of vehicles. And if we have a clear line of sight, we can pinpoint those vehicles up to about 2,000 feet. Also, we like to use that LiDAR in the areas where the primary collision factor is speed, and that is the #1 primary collision factor in the entire city of Citrus Heights, is for those people speeding. Prior to this happening on Tuesday, the city did email out the neighborhood association president in those affected areas to the residents to send out that information to the residents to let them know that this is what's coming down the pipe. We also had the Citrus Heights Police Department volunteers go out and canvass those areas and distribute flyers and pamphlets to the people who live in those affected areas. And then typically, as far as a grace period goes, because the speed limit is increasing in those 4 areas, there won't be a grace period for those speed violations.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So Leslie, I see this column here for the 85th speed limit percentile, and I think that's a great segue into kind of how we updated and landed on these speed limits. Could you walk us through the process behind these updates?
Sure. So in order to figure out what the 85th percentile speed is on a street, which is how we have to base our speed limits, we go out to the roadway and we measure the speed of traveling vehicles. I should mention briefly that there is a few exceptions to this requirement to posting the speed limit at the 85th percentile speed. This requirement does not pertain to residential roads or school zones. Residential roads and school zones are always set at 25, and that's also established in the vehicle code. So when we're talking about the 85th percentile speed and setting the posted speed limit, we're really talking about our arterials, our neighborhood collectors, and that's where this requirement pertains. And so we go out onto those streets, we collect the data during normal traffic conditions. We're not allowed to collect the data during anything that might impede or affect the speed of the car. So we're not allowed to do it during road construction. We're not allowed to collect data when it's raining or there's other inclement weather. When law enforcement out there enforcing the speed limit, we also cannot collect data at that time. Or when there's heavy congestion during commute periods, we have to collect during off-peak periods. And we have to sit in an unmarked car. So there's very specific requirements that we have to follow when we're collecting it. And so we sit there, we actually use the same methodology that the police department uses for enforcement to collect the speeds, and then calculate that speed at which 85% of everyone's driving at or below. Once we have that, we are permitted a very small adjustment factor that we can make. And so we are able to adjust that 85th percentile speed by up to 5 miles per hour if there are unapparent roadway conditions present. These include things that the driver might not be aware of when they're on the street. So if the street has a higher than typical crash rate, if there's a high number of driveways or bike or pedestrian facilities that may not be readily apparent, we can reduce the posted speed limit by 5 miles per hour. But that's really the only adjustment that we're allowed to make. So we really don't have a lot of ability to post the speed limit beyond that. We have to follow kind of what the speed of people are already driving.
And so it sounds like you've got us to, with your survey and, you know, going with the 85th percentile, it sounds like you've got a really great sweet spot where we've reduced as much as we can lawfully, but we are able to enforce the speeds in these 5 major areas now.
That's correct. So we are posting it at the lowest speed that we can in the requirements of the law to really allow Officer Lombardo and her team to go out there and enforce, with the goal to really increase safety on the roads.
That's great. So again, if you're joining us, we're live right now with Officer Lombardo and Leslie Bloomquist talking about the incoming speed limit changes in our city of Citrus Heights in 5 major different roadway areas. We've gone through which streets are changing, why they're changing, the thought process, and the legal issues around updating these speed limits. So if you've got questions related to these changes, please chime in. At this time, I think I'd like to invite my colleague Haley on screen, who's been monitoring the comments and emails all week long related to our traffic changes. And so we'll take questions from the community now.
Hi, ladies. So a resident commented earlier this week asking Antelope Road is whatever speed limit is posted now, and there are a lot of drivers that are already going 10 miles faster than what is posted. The speed limits are raised. Will they still feel they have the right to go 10 miles over the new proposed speed limit?
Thanks, Haley. So we know that they're going 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. That's the 85th percentile speed that we measured. And so that's why we are recommending this additional increase, because we have to meet that requirement to post near. But the goal really is to be able to enforce that. We don't anticipate people will be driving faster than they already are. People feel comfortable driving a certain speed, regardless of what the speed limit is. And I think that's evident by the fact that they are driving around 50 miles per hour.
Thanks. And then so David did comment on our post that we're having kind of a echo feedback. So if you're watching on another device, if you're on the Zoom, just make sure to mute it, because then we have that double feed going on. Thanks, David. And then so we have another resident shared that it seems counterintuitive to raise speed limits for safety. Leslie or Officer Lombardo, do you think you can explain the reasoning behind that?
I agree. It is counterintuitive that we have to raise the posted speed limit, but the goal is to be in compliance with the law so that Officer Lombardo can do her job in enforcement. Did you have anything to add, Officer Lombardo?
Oh, you're muted.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to say, just to reiterate what Leslie said, until we're in compliance, we have a hard time in doing enforcement for speed. We can enforce other things in those areas, but the speed enforcement is minimal.
Great. And then we do have folks wondering, will other speed limits increase for other streets in Citrus Heights?
So the Traffic Engineering Division regularly monitors the 85th percentile speed on all of our roadways. And so if that speed increases, then it is potentially possible that we might have to do something similar on other roads. But at this time, these are the only 5 streets that are planned for changes. But we do monitor and will continue to monitor over the years any changes in the speeds.
Awesome. Thanks, Leslie. And I know it's not speed limit related, but we had someone ask earlier today about the Carriage Drive project. Leslie, can you give a quick update on that?
Oh, definitely. This is great timing, actually, because it was adopted by City Council last night. We finalized the plan a few weeks ago and presented it to City Council, who formally adopted it. So we're currently working on getting the final document published to our website, which we hope to have up and live by the end of next week. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about that project, the City Council meeting last night, there was a brief presentation, and there was also a study session back in July 23rd, I believe. If you go into the archives, you can see more information there. But look for the live final document on our website next week. Perfect.
Thank you. And then we have a couple people that joined us. I just want to say thank you. We have Jacqueline, Pamela, David, 2 Davids, and Eva. Let me go ahead and I'll reshare that speed limit link. It looks like it wasn't popping up in the comments, but that's all I have.
Great. Thanks, Haley.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot of information today. Again, if you joined us halfway through, you can watch a recording of this later on. We'll be sharing that out. We also have information up on the city's website related to the speed limit changes, and that address is citrusheights.net/speed limits. We're going to have a roundup, an FAQ, this recording, the recording of the council meeting on October 22nd when these changes were adopted, and contact information in case you guys have any more questions. So Officer Lombardo and Leslie, thank you so much for your time today and really breaking down this topic to help us understand why these changes are so important. I'd love to ask if you guys have any closing thoughts to leave our viewers with. Leslie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you know, everyone has the power to change the behavior on our roads by leading by example and driving the speed limit. We can all help increase safety in Citrus Heights. So I encourage everyone to do so. Thanks.
That's great. Officer Lombardo?
And then just to build on what Leslie said, we are absolutely here to help. If you notice speeding vehicles in your area, by all means, please call the City of Citrus Heights Police Department. Please call our non-emergency line. That's 916-727-5500. It would be great if you could give us directions of travel, most efficient time for us to be out there to catch these violators, and be sent over to the traffic division, and we will come out there promptly.
All right, awesome. Well, I know your team, Officer Lombardo, has their work cut out for them as we make these changes. Thank you both for your time today. And to everyone who tuned in, thanks for watching. We love to keep you connected with what's happening in your city, and we'll keep these remote Facebook Lives going for you. If you have any questions after the fact, you can still comment. We'll get to them. And until next time, thanks for joining us.